What? Jersey Mike's is a great place to hang out. I mean, there's a lot of good places to hang out that you might not think of normally. You know what I mean? Pool halls are another one. You don't even have to be good at billiards or shooting pool, although I am excellent at it. My father was a semi-pro. Honestly, I don't think there are enough tech events at pool halls, and that's something we should be looking into. Steve Weiner here from GetRubics.com, and today we're going to keep going with our Intune work with the PowerShell SDK, and we're going to talk about finally putting in some web requests to change properties of items, such as the primary user of an Intune managed device. I don't know, a tech event at a pool hall? All right, so forget it. I don't know. Sometimes I just say stuff. Okay, so where we last left everything yesterday is we were able to use these get commands to go ahead and grab, we took the device name and the username that we ultimately want to change, and we're able to get their IDs. So here, let me just back up into what we want to do here. So if I go to devices, Windows, where's my, I can get rid of that. Let me just grab that device name so I can show you just what we're doing. So we want to take this device, which is currently the primary user is Luke Skywalker, and we want to change that to Jesse, right? And we have this is the device ID. So we have the device name, and we're able to look up Jesse and grab his ID with this command. So that's all yesterday. So now what do we actually have to do? So there's a few things here. Let me pull up. I had some notes because I do take notes. Sometimes I forget things, although my notes look incredibly incoherent. So now instead of using the commandlets that come with the PowerShell SDK, we're going to assemble our own requests. So basically the way requests work, right? So let's do this for a second. Let's take a notepad out. You essentially you have a URI or endpoint, and that's the resource. You have the method, which is what are you doing, right? And then depending on there, you might have content. What are you changing? So the best way to look at this is, so our URI is our endpoint. So in this case, it's graph.microsoft.com beta/something, right? If we want it to be Intune, it would be device management. Managed devices would be all the devices. If we were looking for something user related, it would be users. Oh, gotta be able to spell. So we have to assemble our endpoint for where we want to put something. So let's say, here. So let's put this up here. MicrosoftGraph.com, device management, manage devices. And because we know the device ID, we would just put the device ID here. That's going to send us to, that means we are calling that device up here. Now, what do we want to do to it? So available methods for things are get, post, patch, delete, and put. So that's what we can do. Those are the actions we can take. And then the content, what are you changing? So that would be, that's for us, it's going to be the username. So the thing we want to add. So in our case, that would be the user ID. Right, so that's essentially what we're assembling when we make these calls. The commandlets just build them in for us. So first thing we have to do is we have to say the thing we want to change is the user of the device. So this is a very interesting one. So if I do invoke mg graph request, you see it's going to prompt me for the method. So I just want to get right now. The URI is HTTPS. So something that we can use to make this easier though is we can actually put this in a variable. So we can make this graph https graph.microsoft .com/beta, and we could store that so that we don't have to keep typing that. Okay, so now I can see the URI is graph, device management, managed devices, and I'm going to actually put the device ID in. So if I were to just call that, that's going to give me the device I want. Yep, so see, we got the, there it is, Luke Skywalker's display name. Yes, this is exactly what we're looking for, and we were able to get that. But the thing we want to change when we talk about a device is there's a specific call. So if I do that again, device ID / users / here, I'll show you. Users should return. Okay. So let's do this. Yeah. So when we go a step further with the device, and I call this out, in fact, let's outgrid view this. Might be easier to explain because I feel like I'm becoming incoherent. Okay. So if you take a look at the output from this, this is giving us, this is basically user information, right? This is giving us user information on the device. And you can see we got, IM address, mail address. You could see SMTP, user principal name, right? So this is basically going to store the information for us. So an interesting thing in the graph is how do we change that? There is one more level here. So if we were to go back, if we go dash, right, another slash, tick $ref. Now, let me just explain what this is, right? So because in, so here, I'll explain this for a second. So in the graph, so you might have https graph.microsoft.com devices, and you might want to filter for something. Filter equals contains. There's all different things we can do after that, but the point I'm trying to make is if we were to back up for a second and look at this right here, when we're writing this in PowerShell, this is a problem because $signs are variables. So how do we tell PowerShell to ignore that? We call that a tick. That's also known as like an untilted shift key. So that's what this is right here. So like the thing next to the one without shift, tick should be fine. But that's how you can tell it, hey, that escapes it. That's not a variable. So when we say ref, right? So that's our endpoint to post things, right, to that device. So let's construct that. So we have graph, our device URI, so we'll build the whole thing. So the device URI will be graph device ID users ref. Okay, so that is our, actually I could put this above here. Okay, so that's our device URI. So that's what we're going to call to put something, right? Or post something. Now we need the user URI. So that means even though we have the user ID, we need the complete path there. So the user URI is going to be, user URI is going to be equal to graph again. Oh, actually that made me realize I totally messed up here. I forgot the Intune portion. So we can do this two ways. We can do device management / managed devices. Or if you wanted to make a variable for Intune, you could just do that. Device management / managed devices. You could do that and insert it there. Let's try that. Either way, should be okay. So we do the same thing here. I'm just going to say users, and then we have the user ID. Okay. And the user URI. So let's run these. Let's make sure let's run the whole thing here. Okay, so let me clear the screen out. Let's call some of these to make sure they're coming out coherently. So device URI. Perfect. That's our call. And you can see that it was able to put the $sign in the way it's going to have to read it within a string without being a variable. Let's call the user URI and see if that got the same thing. Perfect. Beta users, and that's the user ID. So we're going to take this and post it here, or patch it. I forget what the call is. It's actually a post. All right. So now that we have that, let's clear this again. So we have our URIs. So create URIs, URI paths. That sounds better. The last thing we have to do is we have to understand when we post things to the graph. Remember, everything in the graph is JSON. Remember, everything down here is JSON body. So if we're going to add something, it has to be in the JSON format. So let's talk about that. And if that seems a little wonky, don't worry so much about it, because this is repeatable. You can follow it. So the ID is going to be at odata .id, and the JSON is going to be like any other JSON, brackets. We're going to take that ID and make the OData ID equal to the user URI, which is the full endpoint to that user's ID. And we should be good there. Let's run all that. And let's pipe out our JSON and see what that looks like. So there you go. That looks exactly in the format we want, so that, you know, the graph can accept it. So now all we have to do is say invoke mg graph request. Method is post. The URI is the device URI, and the body is JSON. And we should be good. So we're going to run this. Okay. Well, that worked very fast. If for some reason you get some kind of prompt about credentials, just remember to use the scope trick we talked about yesterday to go ahead and manually add the credentials in to the SDK. But we're going to go back and look at this device. Remember, it was Luke Skywalker. Let's see if we can refresh the page. There we go. Now it's Jesse. Perfect. And that was, you know, seamless. Okay. So there we go. We were able to go from talking to the graph, using the PowerShell SDK, using friendly names to get the IDs we want with the commandlets, into our own calling of the REST APIs through invoking the requests. What we'll probably get into next is how to not use the PowerShell SDK and just how to put together our own requests. We can talk about how we do filtering directly. You see a lot of this in the tenant migration solution, which we also have big news coming next week for. So hop in the Discord to say hi, and we'll see you later.
5, 4, 3.